Hi all, Heather here for Sew It Yourself, and I am going to be quilting this today, and I just wanted to show you what happens. So I don't know, it's maybe not really obvious on here, but the edge actually goes sideways down. Well, you can see up here we've got maybe 3 inches across and 3 inches up there, and then when we get down to the bottom we've got probably about 6 inches and no inches on that side. So the whole thing is kind of warped crazy, and I'm going to try to kind of straighten it. And also, not only does it warp crazy that way, but it also kind of swoops down in here. And so part of the reason this happened, there's 2 reasons. One, these are batiks, so they stretch different than your regular cottons, which are the ones on the sides, the cream colored stuff. And so when you sew those together with your other ones, it doesn't match up quite the same way. The other problem is when she sewed these strips together, she sewed them all from the same side going across. And when you do that, then it actually kind of warps the whole thing, as you can see, and you end up with this discrepancy that happens along the side. Now I'm going to try my best to do some straightening, and we'll have to work the extra fabric that's in that blue into our pattern, and I'm going to try and straighten it as best I can. But end of the day, if I can't get it much straighter, she's just going to have to cut up the side here to straighten it off, and up the side here, so she'll have less on her sides. But that's worst case scenario. We'll see how well I can do at kind of stretching. And see, look, I even want to tip the thing to try and make it right. Anyway, we'll see what we can do, and I'll try and bring you along for the ride as I'm doing this. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is put this on as straight as possible on the top edge. So regardless of what the rest of the quilt is doing, and you can see there's a little bit extra fabric in there, we're just going to try our best to stretch it out, but we want to keep this as straight as possible because this is not an edge we want to have to trim off, because it would show a lot as to, you know, if this part is really narrow and then this is really wide, it's really going to show a difference. So we want to try and keep that top edge perfectly, so that doesn't have to be trimmed off. And then the side, normally I go down the side first and then across the top, but this time I'm actually going to go across the top first because I want that totally straight. And because we know that this warps this direction so badly, I need to start as close to this edge as possible so I don't run out of fabric at the other edge if I can't straighten this edge out. So we're going to start, I'm going to stitch down that top edge, and then I'll come back and do the sides, and we'll let you see how it turned out. So here I've come down, and because my machine is on belts, it actually wants to kind of go in a straight line anyway, and I did have to go in a little bit here, but even if we have to go in a little bit more, it will still give us a fair distance from the edge of this heart. On the other side, it's a little more drastic, but if this is our narrowest part, you can see even if we come straight down, we're still going to have a fair distance from the edge of this heart. So she should be able to square it up on both sides and make it look fairly decent. Hopefully we can do some work with it a bit more. I did pull these over as best I can without putting actual wrinkles in. The other thing I did is, because this is tighter than the blue, like I've actually got like extra fabric in the blue that I'm going to have to work in, and kind of a tuck in here because just the way it's pulling. I did put pins in the white just to hold it so it doesn't get sucked in. But the blue I'm not going to, because if it gets pulled in, that's a good thing. And we have chosen to go with this blue color for thread. So the quilting within the heart even though it's going to end up puffier because of the extra fabric, I don't think it's going to show very badly because the thread is blue. And then the rest should just look good. And again, I put a pin on this side so that it doesn't suck this up anymore. And the key is you want to try and keep that same line on the same place on the roller all the way across, which the white now is. The blue wants to come down. If I let it, it would come down just about a whole line more. So I'm actually pulling it up, and then hopefully I can work that fabric into that quilting as it happens. I know it looks quite bad right now, but I think we can take care of most of it. We're going to do a fairly close spirally, it's called curls, I think, on it. So I think I'll be able to work most of that in. We'll see. So I have the first part row done. I actually went and fixed this because it was doing weird, not over the same track stuff, but did not fix it as well as I would have liked. So I'm gonna have to check that again. Anyway, so I had to roll it up to do this next row, and you can see there's quite a bit of stretching, etc. happening here. So I'm actually going to steam press this so that it kind of puts it to where it should be, and I'm going to try and get so that this white lace fairly flat and get all those wrinkles into the blue, because I think the blue is less likely to show it than the white is, simply because it's blue thread on blue fabric, and it's a little softer fabric that's in this blue, so I think it will take the extra a little bit better than this stuff. Now, some of the other problem with the whole stretching, not stretching thing is this fabric here is a very lightweight fabric, similar to the batiks, but these other ones, because of the gold and the extra coloring on them, sparkles and stuff, they are quite stiff to start with, so they are not stretching the same as this other one. So that's also causing part of the problem with this whole not laying flat part. Alright, I pressed it, and you can see the white looks a lot better. Managed to get most of those wrinkles out, and I worked them all into the blue, which does not show quite as much. So I think that's the right thing to do, and we'll see how it looks when it gets quilted. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's looking really good. It worked all those extra little tucks and stuff in. You can't even see it, and our edging looks great. So we'll roll it up some more and see how we do with the next row. I've removed that small bit of basting, and then it's sitting a little bit better as far as the edge goes. And down at the bottom here, it's actually not looking too bad. So I think I'm going to actually start basting from the bottom and work my way up, and hopefully get that to sit a little bit flatter. And then we'll just have to work again, try and work that into the blue so that it just kind of disappears in the blue again. So I pressed it with the steam, and you can see that it's actually not looking too bad. There's a few small wrinkles in here, but I think that will just work into the quilting and be fine. And actually the blue tightened up a bit when I pressed it as well, steamed it. So that's a good thing. There's a few little wrinkles in here again, but that will just work into the quilting and definitely won't show up on that blue. This I'm going to have to work a little bit harder at. But that side, remember there was an awful lot of extra fabric in here, and between the steaming and basting it from bottom to top, we managed to get that all worked in. So I just wanted to mention that when you're working the fabric, you want to actually pull it towards your needle as it's sewing. Can't really show you how to do it because I don't have a tripod for this right now, but Basically, if you're coming to a spot, you want to actually work the fabric towards the needle, not away from. The tendency is want to push it away from, but then you'll end up with a big puddle of fabric that you have to work in later. So if you actually draw the fabric towards it, then you'll tend to lose your tucks if there's a little one that looks like it wants to be a tuck instead of just a smooth quilted thing. Then if you keep moving it towards the needle as it's coming towards that, then it will actually make it so it's not a tuck. It will just work it all into a nice little piece for you. Alright, there you have it. So all of that looked very bad when I started is looking really good. There's one tiny spot up here I'm not super happy with, but there's a lot of extra fabric to go in right there. So I think when it's hanging on a wall, I'll maybe just spritz it to calm the fabric down a little bit, let it relax, and that might just all go away. And of course in the blue you don't see it anyway. It all looks really good. We're done. And if you can remember, when we first started out, this corner was just about right over there. So that's a good 3 inches that I've managed to pull it over from where it was. So that's pretty good. It'll mean a lot less squaring up to do afterwards. And I'll just give it a little spritz so that some of these ones that are quite stiff from pressing it, they'll just soften up and loosen up a bit. Won't look quite so pressed. And yeah, that's looking good. The top and bottom are actually straight, so that's fine. It's just going to be the sides that she's going to have to square up. Alright, there you have it, the finished product. Just has to put binding on. She's going to do it in blue. She's extremely happy with how it turned out. And just remember, as quilters, whether it's for yourself or for somebody else, our job is to try and get these quilts, even if they're somewhat not perfect, to look as good as they possibly can when they go back to the people. So what I try to do is do the best I can to make it look good, and then try and educate them for the next quilt that's going to come in. That seems to work pretty good. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and please leave me a note if you found this helpful, and feel free to subscribe. Thanks.